All right. Let's go ahead and call it to order. It is 6:31. Hopefully Eloise will join us, but we have to break for the select board meeting. Primary order of business for today is to review the municipal adder bids, and in this case we're going to refer to them by the redacted version. So we will just from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, because this is actually protected information. So do you have the redacted one or do you have the non-redacted?
I don't know.
You have the redacted one.
Okay.
There is one that actually lists the supplier's name rather than supplier 3.
Oh.
But that is actually not subject to
Public.
because it's a competitive bid and they have proprietary rights over it. All right, and then the other thing, we just have some news to catch up on, and then we'll go. So we'll do in hopes that Eloise can join us, why don't we just cover the news first?
Okay.
And then we'll talk through it. So prior to us calling this to order, we were briefly discussing some of the things. First of which is that our spring grant from Guardian is moving right along. It does look like that they have gone back to, I guess, their suppliers and have found a better option for insulation. Just as a review, if you look along the edges, the interface between the roof and the walls is not sufficiently insulated in the second floor, which means we are leaking heat like a sieve. So this is a pretty good opportunity. It's very expensive, but they'll be taking down these tiles and air sealing between those interfaces, which is cool. We did this at the school, actually.
Now, is it just around the edge?
It's predominantly what they're concerned about is around the edge.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny. I don't know why this didn't come to be, because we actually air sealed around all the windows, but they must not have noticed the interface when they did it. So that's huge. I mean, if you're going to put insulation in a building, your roof, heat rises, kind of the place you want to do it. So that's a good thing. They're also looking at splitting this bid or this grant opportunity into 2 pieces. One would be to do some of the air sealing. The other one is to start on building controls to try to smooth out some of the ups and downs that we have. One of the fundamental problems with this building is we have too few zones. I think you saw my email. For our one viewer that didn't see it, we have 7 zones in this building, and your average house has at least 4, typically. I have a garage heat in mine, so I have 5, which I don't use. But
Yeah, we've got 3.
you've got 3 upstairs,
We've got
downstairs,
3.
and
Yep.
hot water is like the
Yep.
minimum. And in a building this size, it's kind of crazy to have only 7 zones. So hopefully we can address some of that. That'll give a lot more flexibility on heating, and ideally smooth out some people baking while other ones are freezing, because there's just no way to smooth that out. The other thing is we currently have dampers, which are either all open or all closed or something in between. The way they explained to me is rather than just like a gate, so to speak, they have these boxes which they can change the volume, so it can change how much air is flowing through it, how much. So it's for a smaller room may have a less of a demand than a larger one, or a meeting room like this one may be more important than a side room, or maybe the offices are more important than a meeting room because they're in use 8 to 5. So again, that's another option. So very much looking forward to seeing that. We do have a hard date to do it in May. So we may have to have either an interim meeting or at least a discussion between now and then. I think at this point we've discussed this enough. It'll probably just go to file, but hopefully we'll see some more information on that. The other thing is that Kristen put us in for a regional climate pollution reduction grant opportunity. That's part of just CMRPC and Worcester County in general. Seems more focused on organics, recycling, composting. That is in our green community mandate, but it's kind of a secondary one. But it's definitely something that, hey, if we can set up some kind of, yeah. I think that it'd probably fall more under Board of Health, considering that they have the transfer station, but I guess we have a role to play as well. And then the last piece of it is I was mistaken. Here, I'm saying it on camera. I was mistaken that we did opt into the CMRPC assistance, which they will assist us in preparing green community grants and other grants of that sort. So we're in good position for the spring. So basically what will happen is Guardian will do the legwork, and we will probably turn it over to CMRPC to put the finishing touches on it. And then it'll be in Kristen's court to sign, and we're off to the races. So hopefully we can get that. They also increased the maximum award from $200,000 to $250,000 this year. So it's no guarantees we'll get that. No guarantees we'll get anything, but I assume we will get something, and hopefully it'll be a nice chunk of change to address some of these things. All right, so we've spoken a little bit. We do want to be a little bit early to the select board. We do have a 7 o'clock appointment for our audience who's not here and our viewer with the select board to discuss setting the municipal aggregation rate for the next X period, and that's part of what we need to talk about here, of what our recommendation would be. So let's go over that. There are several bids. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 suppliers. Our current one is Constellation. They also did respond, but I won't refer to what they did do or which respondent they are again for the proprietary nature of this. So the way that you read this particular spreadsheet, and it is pretty involved, is that you have multiple options associated with the mix of the energy, and you have 4 respondents for each one of those, and inside each one of those operations you have different terms of it. So you guys can come on in. We are the energy. We're talking about actually municipal aggregation, so have a seat. Just as a reminder, however, you are on camera. Hi. And it is being recorded. So joining us today is Colonial Power, who will be also meeting with us in the select board for a few minutes. We were just talking about the bids.
Okay.
And we are referring to them by supplier 1 through 4 because we
much.
are on camera. We did mention that Constellation is one of the bidders, but we will not be discussing which one is which and who they
Okay.
are.
Nope. Great.
So where we were at, and hopefully you can answer any questions, I was just explaining kind of how the spreadsheet is laid out. There are different options of the, I guess, greenness of the
That is
mix,
correct. Yes.
ranging from meeting the minimum Massachusetts requirements to meeting 100% of the target goals, which do you know when those kick in, those target goals, or are they already in place?
So what we're saying with that is we get to 100% step up on RPS. So this year happens to be a 2. When you go to 25, you get 2% more
Yep.
mass class 1s, and all we do is step up so that you're always at 100% mass class 1.
All right.
So that would keep coming down if you went for longer than 1 year.
Yeah, that's well, jumping ahead maybe a little bit. Speaking for myself, I'm very much recommending that we go for a longer term on this one. This looks like really killer pricing to me. And speaking for myself, again, I do like to use the wind credits that 100%, because I see a lot of benefit to that in the sense that we are future proof, because if we do a long term, we have no fears of any step ups or anything like that. So I was kind of like that. Part of the reason, getting back to the cost, is I did some quick calculations. I don't know how accurate they are, but do what you may. For supplier number 3, I was looking at the National Wind Recs, so that would be this one right here. That meets the Massachusetts requirements plus 38%.
Yes.
And I was entertaining the 36-month term, which would be 12.867 cents.
Correct. Yes.
And when I looked at that, so our current rate is 12.167, and we did a 3-year term for that last time as well. Just looking at that in 2021 dollars versus what that same thing would be in 2024, so basically just taking a straight inflation calculation, that 12 cents would be 14 today. So we've already beat inflation with the newest term. Additionally, if you look at just a simple like compound interest effect across those 3 years, that would be a 1 point. To get to this new rate, you would take our last rate and then compound it 1.8% 3 times, which is just outrageously good, in my opinion. I thought that was really a nice thing. It's well below any reasonable CPI type of arrangement or any kind of typical contractual escalation that I'm used to seeing. So I think the combination of a good price with a locking in for a long term at the highest level of green community is kind of a win, or green energy is kind of a win-win-win across the board.
Yep.
For us. It's one of the lowest prices on the grid in general. And I think that by locking in a long term, that we've been doing this for 10 years now, I think, something like that.
I think it's 2017,
Yeah.
maybe 16. I'm not.
January 17.
17.
Yeah.
So now I guess it's not as long as I thought. It just feels that way. 7 years.
Yep. Still a good long time.
got-
Still a good long time.
You've
When
got COVID in there,
When we
so.
first started, we were doing 6-month terms.
Yes.
And that was cautious, but it really didn't amplify the savings for our community.
Or the stability or anything.
Or the stability, because we were doing this every 6 months. These guys were going out to bid every 4,
Correct.
you know,
Right.
Yep.
and it just didn't make sense. So we flipped to a longer term back in, I guess, my last term. So this would have been about 2019, I would say, 2018.
You are. Yep. Good.
Yep.
And we did a 3-year, which took us to 2021, which was the last one. And now we're negotiating.
That's
again.
exactly correct.
So if you look at the accrued savings across that period, it's pretty substantial. Oh, to point out a couple of things, another thing on here. Up here, this is their estimate, or maybe what's published, of the standard rate that National Grid will be providing. And across the same period, you're looking between 16 and 14 and a half, 14.4 and 16.6. For our one viewer, that's split. We do see reduced cost during the winter into July, and then you see an increased cost from August through December. So it nets out to probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 plus or
Correct.
minus. some
Somewhere in
change.
that range. That's 16. They've bought half of it. They're going to be going out
Yeah.
in another month or so. So that's current market plus their original buyback in, I think that was November.
Right. So
So-
conservatively, we're going to be saving 2 cents per kilowatt hour
Conservatively, yes.
across the term of this loan, or this,
At least for the first year, I
for
would
at
say
least the
that's-
first year.
that is correct.
So I guess our risk, as it's associated right now, is what is the marketplace trending towards? And typically, I bet towards higher prices overall.
It has been bouncing around. So from a natural gas perspective, we're
Yeah.
at lows, right? $2, even under in the
Yeah.
front months. So believe it or not, our problem is we have a constrained natural gas capacity issue here in New England. So it's LNG. The one thing I'll say about your pricing here, very advantageous. But should Mr. Putin decide to start dropping bombs again all over Europe,
Yeah.
this price is going to seem, as you were already shielded from the last time.
Yeah.
So
Right.
most people in Berlin didn't feel the pain of 33 cents that came, thanks to you guys on that. I'm not saying, I never saw that happening either, but because you're in a longer term contract. And the nice thing is if consumers wish, let's just say there's a kumbaya moment and Mr. Putin says, well, I made a terrible mistake. Let's back out. And
I'll give you
everything
back all of
Hey,
it.
yeah, if this ever happened and prices fall, anyone can opt out of this at any time.
Correct.
Yeah.
I do feel like, given that this is some of the best pricing we have seen since we've been at this for the last, I'm going to just, in today's world, like the last 18 months, this is probably the best
Yeah,
pricing
this
we've
is good.
seen.
Right.
All right. That kind of cinches it. And to that point, just to reiterate, and I saw Scott walk by too, but we missed COVID. We missed at least 2 major international incidents.
Yeah,
Correct.
if you'd only signed a 24-month, you would have been going out there last year with everyone. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a lot of communities out there that.
Yes.
So I honestly believe the defensive play at this point
Might be
is
a
to take the
perfect-
longest term.
That might be a perfect way to state it too, is a defensive play. We're not at historic lows, as you could tell. I mean, before. The one thing I should mention, in this pricing does not have any operational adder for the town.
That's
You have
correct.
to add whatever you wanted to this.
Let's talk through that, because there's a question that came from the select board, and we went round the bend, and I think I know what happened, but it's neither here nor there. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. I think I'd like to use the opportunity tonight to also kind of educate the select board about what that adder can be used for.
Yes.
I have some ideas that we've kicked around a couple times about kind of what we could look at, but I'm agnostic. We don't need to necessarily make a decision because, as you said, it's still in play till November, right?
Correct.
Yes.
This current contract, unless you said we want to stop it, we could tell the supplier to stop it.
Okay.
But, it'd bring down the price ever so slightly.
Yeah. During the period when the
And from now until, or we
July.
need 30 days, and then after that, we could do it until
Yeah, and
November.
technically you have to notify. I don't know if it,
Oh.
it's a price change, even though it's coming down. And
We'd have to
technically
mail.
you have to, well, yeah, you have to at least put a notice out in the newspaper telling folks the rate's coming down. I mean, it's down, so it's not, no one's gonna complain.
the
but you still have
pitchforks
to-
are going to come out. Yeah.
you still have to
Darn
go
it!
through
You
the
cut my
exercise,
rate.
so,
Yeah.
I
So
don't know.
I'm predisposed.
Right.
I would like to have the conversation before we make a decision. We have made a decision. I think my guess is when we were last year, we oscillated and didn't give clear info.
I think you were at a no, and then we had a conversation.
And then
you
we
were
kind of
like,
went to a
let's-
yes. Yes. So
That's
It's
what I
a-
was thinking
Yeah.
too. I'm like, you know what? I think we were like, no. I
when
think
these
we wanna
emails were going
stop
back
it.
and forth, I stopped and I
then-
thought about it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
and then
oh,
I'm
I
like,
know what
I
happened.
Yeah,
guess
there were some
I
ideas.
remember.
turned it
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you guys have some really,
Yeah,
really
interesting.
forward-thinking ideas about how to use that to have, someone that an engineer of some type,
Yeah.
that may be able to align you for future energy efficiencies, so that you guys would have a full audit of where things stand.
So this is the kind of the notes that I've been socializing, and I'd like to run it by you again, just to make sure that it's consistent with your understanding. I said that work with adjacent communities to fund a shared energy efficiency sustainability manager who would be focused on improving public buildings and overall public efficiency. Potentially pay for engineering assessments necessary to produce shovel-ready grant proposals. Use EDDR funds to market the municipal aggregation program. That's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Fund educational material on how municipal aggregation works and the difference between delivery and supply
I
costs.
apologize, I
That's
lost
okay.
my car keys.
Oh, gosh. So based on what you heard there, is there anything that gives you agita over?
That is exactly what the department's looking for.
Okay.
I think the energy efficient, we just have.
Well, I wouldn't mention the energy efficient. I'm just saying when they came and asked, you're hiring a person to do this for numerous towns and so forth.
Yeah.
There is no problem with anything you have there.
The guidance that I took away from our last conversation is to think salary, not capital.
Yep.
That's exactly correct. And whenever you're going to put together a job description, we just want to keep it, not that they can't do it, keep the word energy efficiency out, because at the state level, they're pushing mass save.
So it would be energy policy for
Yes.
Bingo.
Spot on. Yep.
Bingo.
All right, so let me cross that out and put policy.
Same exact meaning, different term.
Yep.
Yep.
For us improving public shared policy.
Yep. Perfect.
All right, so now it reads, work with adjacent communities to fund shared energy policy. A shared energy policy sustainability manager would be focused on improving public buildings.
Yes.
And that also would play very well into the new program, which is the Climate Leader program. So the sustainability and public policy seems to be in keeping. So Eloise, we were going over the competitive bids. To give you the short synopsis of what we talked about is I believe that we should go for a long term, so the
Yep.
36 months. Colonial, as well as my assessment, agrees that this is really good pricing, like
It's the best we've seen.
best
Yeah,
we've
honestly.
seen.
I did look over the whole documents.
So what were thoughts? I mean, I was suggesting supplier number 3 for 36 months at for the renewable energy National Wind at 12.867. And if you need to look at it, it's right here too.
That's about, I know I wanted 3-year terms and I was in the 12. Okay.
So based on what
Looks
you heard,
good.
so that's what we're gonna go. There's our vote, viewers, our vote. That's what we're gonna go with select board with.
Okay, no, it makes perfect sense to us.
And just some of the justification always is that would work out to a 1.8% annual increase over what we had, which is less than
Minimal.
inflation.
And we're gonna do away with the 2% rise.
Let's talk about it. So when you walked in, we were just kind of going over that. We don't have to really do anything. Well, we could, if we wish to, stop it within 30 days. Is what I heard.
Correct.
However, the potential, we still have uses that we could do. And they just confirmed it again, but I'll read to it. But
Yeah, you're looking for energy policy.
energy policies.
Salary.
So work with adjacent communities to fund a shared energy policy sustainability manager who would be focused on improving public buildings and policy overall. Pay for engineering assessments necessary to produce shovel-ready grant proposals. Use adder funds to market the municipal aggregation program, which I think we should do anyway.
Yeah.
I think we have about 900 meters last I checked, something to that effect.
1193, so
Ooh,
1200.
1200.
1193.
That's as of December.
Yeah, and I'll say this, 33 cents,
Yeah.
lots of people looking at.
We had a bunch of people contact. How do I get in? And I had a standard email that I was sending back. Here's the Colonial webpage. So
I actually had someone call me the other day
yeah,
and ask me, I'm new to town. How do I can't do this. I need information on the solar. And I'm like, there isn't like a solar
that
thing,
people confuse
but
that.
we have the aggregate, and so I didn't have all the information with me because they
That's fine. You can always
called
send
the office, and I
It should be up on the town's website.
it should be on the town webpage, but we send them to me too. I'm happy
Okay.
to deal with that one. And then the last one is fund educational material on how the aggregation program works and the difference between supply and delivery. Because I get that question a bazillion times. Wait a second, I thought I was in the aggregation program. Why do I have this other, 17 cents or 20 cents or whatever it is now? Like, well, that's the usury fee. I'm sorry, but that's how
Can't
you
do anything about
can't
that.
do anything about that.
Stuck there.
So I think we should at least have the conversation with the select board about what they think we should do.
The BMS wanted 400,000 and capital planning did not support it because they did not have the documentation.
Oh, okay. All right. What else do we have? We have 5 minutes before we are on the agenda. We took notes too, and Amy took notes.
Huh?
No,
I took
we,
some notes.
Good.
that was the royal we. Amy took notes.
How much have we been bringing in, Amy, on a monthly basis?
It's about 2.
22, yeah.
Yeah,
2,
2,
22, depending on
22,
usage.
25, depending on the month.
Yep.
So, either way, it's really not. I mean, it kind of is our decision, but it's ultimately the select board. So if they want us to cancel it, we'll cancel it. If not, I would love to have the opportunity to at least talk to them about it and educate them
Sure.
about the possibility. And I also kind of know that we waffled a couple times, so let's bring some other folks in. Okay. I think I have to not adjourn this meeting, but continue this meeting to the joint meeting that we're holding with the
Do you
select board.
pause it? What do you
I think
what
we
do you
just.
do to moving the meeting? We're
Yeah,
moving
we're
the
just-
meeting to the other room.
Hey viewers, join us over in the select board.
We're
feed, so.
adjourning to the posted selectmen meeting.
That's right. We have a joint meeting with them, so we'll be moving over there.